I'm sending out, thank you letters to physicians. I'm sending out welcome notes to new patients and clients. I track all that in a spreadsheet. Yes, it takes longer. But it's like, then I remember, oh, I did send them this on this day or whatever. So those are the types of things I'm thinking about in terms of other lead generation. And then if they see those comments, if they look at, if we DM them or if we do the comments, then they go over to our profile and then they start to see the other videos and the things that you've kind of.
So I was just talking a little bit about one of the topics we were going to talk about, which was I had shared that Facebook post asking if anybody charges a cash rate for range of motion measurement check-ins. And I'll give the context behind it because I didn't share the context originally. Basically, my idea was I was sitting here last night. Our census has dropped way down. We're probably 30% of where we would normally be. We had a bunch of discharges. We've got a bunch of people on vacation. And so we're looking at, okay, what's a switch I can flip? Last night I started running a paid Facebook ad, which I haven't run a paid ad in months, just to see if we can get some easy, low-hanging fruit, to come into the clinic. One of the ideas, since we focus on total knee replacement, is I wonder if there's a community out there who's been discharged from physical therapy, who's just like, man, I wish I knew how my knee is doing. I have a guy in the clinic right now. He's been an active member for over 2 years. I evaluated and treated him like a year after his surgery. He's really restricted. When I evaluated him the first time, we were like 92 degrees of flexion. I have video evidence. We got to 105 degrees of flexion. Now he's been working out 3 days a week. He's been coming into the clinic. He self-pays. He's at 80 degrees of flexion. So he actually lost over 20 degrees of flexion despite doing everything he's supposed to be doing. But he likes getting, measured. So probably quarterly, we do a measurement. We kind of figure out what's going on. We see what we can do. I believe there's underlying pathology that's causing him to lose range of motion. It has nothing to do with the fact that he had a knee replacement. On his non-surgical leg, he can't even get to 100 degrees of flexion. And so this is the kind of thing where a consumer is like, what's going on? I'm lost. I don't know where to go. And I think if a physical therapist said, hey, $25, $50, come in, we'll do a quick, goniometric measurement. We'll let you know what you're doing. It's obviously an opportunity to lead into a longer plan of care, but it's also kind of a convenience thing for the consumer. So you screenshotted that. You wanted to talk about it. What were your thoughts first off?
I like it. Any of these offers that we've tested or you float out or I float out there, it makes sense because when someone's typically calling you or me, like they're looking for whatever they define as physical therapy, they're kind of looking for the whole thing. And then oftentimes, whether it's my callers, your callers, other practice owners, like then you get like the insurance question and all that. But when it's a specific thing, so you like a knee range of motion measurement, it's a very specific thing. It doesn't sound like the whole physical therapy offer. I'm sure there still might be prospective patients out there that might see this potential offer and still ask, does my insurance pay, or why is it $25 or $50 or whatever the practice wants to charge out of pocket? Another thing that you've hit on is that it's something that the consumer wants. We're going to get into the other picture if you want later that I sent to you about like what is someone wants versus needs and all that. So I like it specifically because the consumer might be interested in it, demanding it. There might be some consumer demand around it. I'm sure you'll find that. And it's not the whole thing. It's not the whole evaluation and a plan of care and visits and 10, 15, 20, whatever visits. So it's something that's bite-sized. I think more clinics should offer this. I think more clinics could even run Facebook ads for this exact offer as the front end offer to get people into the clinic. And in some cases, you could even have a potential workshop, or you could have some, knee range of motion event that's, free, or maybe, $10 a person or whatever. again, it depends on your focus on lead generation and prospective patients. So, you can get more folks if it's free. And if it's $10, you get a little less. And if it's 25, you get a little less. And if it's $50, maybe you get a little less, the more you raise the price. But I like it because it's something that the consumer that had a knee replacement or maybe another knee surgery historically, but definitely like a knee replacement, someone that is concerned about that thing, we know that we can kind of educate them, like the range of motion, 5 extra degrees, whatever, typically might not be all that important functionally, but like it's something they care about.
Yeah.
So I like you bringing this up because it's something that someone wants and it's not something necessarily covered by insurance and you're not trying to sell them the whole thing. But if you get, I don't know, a handful of folks that come in for $10, $50, whatever, for this knee range of motion check, then they're like, oh, I kind of like you, Tony. I kind of like your office and you have parking and all that. And then some folks will convert to a new plan of care potentially. So there is some downstream positive effects in terms of like the business mechanism.
So what's interesting about this is I was looking for something simple and something tangible. I'm going to share on the screen an image. I was looking at my old, like 2017 Facebook stuff, and I found this image. So I don't know how well you can see it, but basically what I'm doing is I'm holding a goniometer in my right hand. My client has their right arm straight and they're doing shoulder flexion, and there's a laser running across the patient's arm. And I remember you and Rob Vining had referred to me as the MacGyver at one time. This was something where I put together, I just grabbed a little laser level, glued it to goniometer. Now I only had one. If I had two, it'd be even better. Glued it to a goniometer, and patients were going crazy because they're like, oh my gosh, it's, laser and it looks so cool. And we turned the lights down so it looked even better and like the dark scenery. But this is one of those things where we have talked about the theater of healthcare, the experience of it. There are so many times where if we can just tie something tangible to something like this, immediately the value goes up in the consumer's mind. We know chiropractors that are out there selling those bone scans and stuff where you see the red line and it turns to a green line when it's good and a red line when it's bad. And I used to have patients bringing me those stupid scans all day, telling me how messed up their spine was and how bad they were doing. So in therapy, I was also asking ChatGPT this morning. I was like, look, I've got an old iPhone 12 Max Pro. I'm like, what can I do with the LiDAR scanner? Is there a way for me to scan a lower extremity, get girth measurements, show them a 3D rendering of it? And it gave me a couple recommendations on some apps and stuff. I'm sure like an iPhone 17 or the Google phone or any of that stuff could probably do that right now out of the box. But like these are things that we don't put enough emphasis or value on as the clinician because we're like, look, I can get a $5 goni and measure your range of motion. Yeah, but that's not exciting. That's not fun. That's not cool. That's not what the consumer is looking for. So what I'm always trying to do is balance how much I'm willing to do, because you asked me a question a couple episodes ago that we can discuss. How much I'm willing to do, how much I'm allowing myself to get tied to this versus, the effort and the return on that value. I don't want things that require a ton of my time. I can do a little laser goniometric measurement in 20 seconds, like you said, and pretty quickly have a sense, all right, is this going to be a patient or is this somebody who's just looking for a quick measure? I know a lot of places do it for free. I don't think you need to do it for free. I think you can put a price on it. So what we're doing now is I wanted something that looked good on an ad. And it's funny how my thoughts have changed. Before it would have been, what am I good at? What can I deliver? I'm going to start with that. Now it's what looks good on an ad. What's going to get somebody to stop scrolling to look at that for an extra minute. And I've got confirmation because recently on Facebook, on the business page, they started putting out pictures of knees and goniometers and measurements and talking about how to do measurements, how you could do it at home by yourself. 2 or 3 different videos. I've got like yesterday, I think I had 300,000 views on my Facebook page just yesterday, just in the 24 hours. So to me, that's like, hey, people are interested in this content. Let's put an ad behind it. Let's see if we can get some of these bodies in the clinic.
I love it. This is offer creation. You're doing this in real time right now.
Yeah, right now. Yep. And, so we see where it goes. Because I told you guys last time, if I can crack the ad, puzzle and understand how Facebook ads work, I think that it would help a lot of other therapists who are out there struggling.
What's the shortest amount of minutes do you think this would take? I mean, in terms of like someone that's new comes in your office to do this, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, like I'm thinking of what type of, the time frame, and then what's the dollar amount you're thinking about? Because I think those types of things on the ad can help sometimes with like transparency, and also the individual is like, oh, I can get my knee checked, and like you're lowering the barrier to entry. Like you're saying, oh, it'd be 2 minutes for $25, or 5 minutes for 15, or 5 minutes for $30, or whatever you want to charge.
I would be looking for a 5-minute total session time. I'd be looking at $29 fee. Come in for 5 minutes, out the door, hopefully in 3, unless I'm going to convert you into a patient. And then it's a $29 fee, I think is reasonable, because that's enough to interrupt my day. And really this, again, because of the culture that we've created, like right now, I just said my census is low. We have fewer patients than we've had in like several months right now. Every patient who walks in the door, guess what the first thing they say to me is?
Can you check my range of motion number?
No. They're like, where is everybody? This place is dead. Where is everybody?
So I'm missing that.
The patients who are still here are like, where are my people? Where's everybody else? Like they want life in the clinic. They want more bodies in the clinic. So the culture that we built, I would have no problem with just making this a walk-in service. Look, if you want to call us, that's fine. You can just walk in the door. Walk in the door, sign the release, let's get you measured, and you're done. And then if the personality fits, and I'm like, ooh, you might be a good patient, like we can offer extra services, additional services. I don't care if it's insurance or self-pay or whatever, but this would be like a speed dating kind of thing. And like I said, I know I hear it constantly through my community here, my community on Facebook, my community on YouTube. Patients want to be measured, even though we might not want to measure them. I don't want to measure them every time. And so if we can fill that gap, but then the question is, so Scott's here. He said, I like the idea, maybe a balance assessment. See, I think the challenge there, I don't think a lot of people want to be told their balance sucks. I don't think
they already know, and they might not want to know the objective numbers behind it. They might not want to know how bad it actually is.
So that's the thing. So like if we're thinking about this, people who have had a knee replacement want to know, in my experience, they genuinely want to know, what is my range of motion? Is it better? Is it worse? Like what's going on? I try to think of other things like, so we've got fall ball going on right now. I've got a speed gun that I bought from Amazon a couple years ago. Every single kid wants to know how fast they're throwing the ball. Like that is something that they're dying to know. They want to know that. There are certain things that people want to know, certain things that people don't want to know. If I was getting ready, gearing up for a big race, I might want to know what's my VO2 max doing. So like what other things off the top of your head that a therapist can do reliably, that doesn't take a ton of resources, that doesn't take a ton of time. I feel like a fall assessment, balance assessment probably takes more than 3 to 5 minutes. What are some of those things that we can offer right now that people would actually want?
I don't know if they really want the manual muscle test stress testing, because even when we measure someone's manual muscle test, it's like kind of subjective from us.
Yeah.
So maybe with one of those, what are the inclinometers or whatever, or like the Vol technology now, which is like way more advanced. And I'm sure there's cheaper items, and then there's Vol, which is, I don't know, like 10 grand, or I don't know, 20 grand, something crazy.
Yeah.
That type of like a printout or a digital report or whatever, even if it's just like shoulder, like internal external rotation strength on your throwing side, and then you can do other parts of the body. But I think, pitchers, overhead throwers, quarterbacks, swimmers, maybe, comparing their left and their right shoulder strengths, flexion, extension, and rotations. That could be something that would be quick and easy, like for just, throwing athletes, overhead athletes, javelin athletes, whatever.
Yeah.
If you had some of this technology, not like someone, no, I don't think people are going to click a Facebook ad for them to be tested by a physical therapist, and the therapist is like, yeah, you're like, yeah, it's 4 out of 10, or 4 out of 5 strength, or you're 5 out of 5, or you're 3 minus, or whatever, So I think, unfortunately, society values the data output of some technology, and less and less of a subjective finding from a healthcare provider, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Scott brings up a great one: blood pressure checks. Even though people might have a blood pressure system at home, I know the primary care docs will say, look, come in, we'll do a quick BP check on you. They do it for free, but that's a great one that gives you an objective number. So then we look at something like that, and I think, okay, you mentioned there are handheld pressure gauges and things like that we could use that are more objective, obviously, than manual muscle testing. I love the 3D scanning. I saw a scale that has an arm that goes around the body that does a 3D scan of the individual and gives you girth measurements. I think girth is probably more important, if not at least equally important, to objective weight. So these are some of those tools. Now, you would ask me about the Shockwave. You would ask me about the New Fit. You would ask me about some of the other devices that we had in the clinic. And I think, the audience might want to know, like, okay, why haven't I been talking about it? What am I doing? It's one of those things where the technology is amazing. I have nothing bad, and I have no benefit of saying this. I don't get a commission. I'm not on payroll. Zero benefit. The technology is amazing. Absolutely no doubt. But in my environment, it's not practical. And this was the thing that we were starting to realize. We were realizing that the folks that were getting the treatments loved it. They wanted it. Problem is, it would suck my physical therapist assistant away from being able to work with other people and coordinate and do other things. And I was losing more money overall than I was making for the few people that were paying out of pocket for it. And I wasn't going to get into a situation where all of a sudden, and I had said this before, I was like, look, if I was starting a new business or I wanted a different business model, and Will Boyd was on the podcast and he said, I would just be a soft wave provider. Like, it's all I do. I just do soft wave, nothing else. Awesome. Like, yeah, you can grow and you can scale and you can do Facebook ads, and it's visually appealing and it's an effective strategy. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to change my business model for that. So we were finding that on the big picture, we don't want to sacrifice our ability to work with groups for the ability to work with the individual. And we're not really an individual one-on-one based clinic. We don't want to be. That's not our passion. That's not what we're interested in. So it just got to the point where it was taking too much time, too much resource away from being able to work with multiple people and engage with multiple people. And we said, you know what, as much as we love it and as much as we can see the potential, that's not what we want to do. And so we pivoted back. We packed everything up. We shipped it back to the companies. I gave them a huge thank you. And, I told them, hey, I'll keep sharing the videos. I totally support what you guys are doing. The customer service behind it was amazing. But it's just, that's not the business that I want to build. I don't want to build a one-on-one clinic. I don't want to build a clinic that dedicates one full-time clinician to one full-time patient. That's not the model.
Fair enough. That makes
Yeah.
sense. And so also the same thing goes for the newbie, I'm assuming that you had.
Yeah.
The same type of thing where the patient is got the sticky electrodes. Now, of course, once you get the electrodes on them, you could have them go through whatever their drills and exercises are. But I don't know, maybe it requires a little bit more of you or your PTA as well, like in terms of like, if the pads start to peel off or you got to tape them on there or whatever. Like, I feel like it's a little less one-on-one by doing that. But at the same time, like, that does seem to be, like, at least on Instagram, that does seem to be the style of therapist using the newbie, where the therapist is like standing right next to the patient while they're doing squats or lunges or whatever exercise, while having the newbie or the new fit or whatever electrodes on their extremities or low back or whatever.
It is. You're still more engaged. You're still more, direct time with the client, which, I mean, let's face it, that's what everybody watching this right now, I guarantee you that's what they want. And I can tell you from 25 years of experience that we've employed therapists in the past, before this technology ever even existed, where they realized really quick, hey, if I did a therapeutic ultrasound, I can just spend 10 minutes with the patient. I don't have to do anything else. And I can just be there, right? So like, they understood, the therapist understood very quickly, I need a break. I want a little respite. I'm going to go do an ultrasound. Look, guys, sometimes I want a break too. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to rub this shoulder because I don't want to talk. I don't want to listen. I don't want to think about anything. This is my chance to mentally check out. Patient's going to love it. But in my mind, what I've really done is I've built dependency. There are times where I get new patients in the clinic and I'm getting a sense for their personality. And I'm like, I could use manual therapy. They would appreciate the manual therapy. There would be a beneficial impact of the manual therapy acutely. But I think it's going to build a dependency that's going to be hard to break. So I specifically choose not to do manual therapy, not to use it as an intervention because of the downstream problems that it's going to develop. And, doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean that we don't have our share of patients who are like, aren't you going to rub my back? It happens. But we understand that every modality, every intervention has pros and cons. And these are interventions that we intentionally choose not to use because there's other interventions that are just as effective at achieving the goal. And so we talked about new grads the other day. I think this is an element that new grads don't quite understand until they have enough experience and enough exposure to enough different personalities.
You know what's funny? My first job out of school, outpatient, and the schedule was like 3 patients an hour. It'd be like 2 at the top of the hour and then 1 at the half hour mark. And then of course some patients would cancel a no-show, whatever. So it was kind of like, sometimes it was one-on-one, sometimes it was, 2 patients there or whatever, or 3 or 4 or whatever. I remember I did not like that. I did not like sitting down and doing ultrasound. And I had a few mentors that had, a couple decades of experience more than me as I'm a new grad. And they would always start with that. So then it was like, if I got one of their patients, it was like, oh, like I kind of have to continue because this is my mentor. So why am I going to create waves, whatever. And I remember not liking sitting down there next to the patient. I didn't like the monotony of the ultrasound. And then once it caught wind on Twitter or Facebook or whatever about like no research for ultrasound for physical therapy or whatever, I declared that, like, and all the therapists stopped, and like, or at least the younger therapists stopped. And then we stopped doing it for our patients with their evaluations. So then if the older therapists saw our patients, they would not initiate unless it was like, I don't know, unless it was maybe like a adhesive capsulitis or whatever. And they thought that was going to be helpful. But that's funny how you're trying to get away from that, and other therapists would flock to that, you're saying. But I just remember not liking it at all. It was just, then I couldn't do notes. I couldn't bounce around to different patients. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, I wanted to show you guys because I think people we don't get to see these behind the scenes enough. So this is a live view of my Facebook business page. It's the last 28 days of data, 3.1 million views, $541 in ad revenue generated. But if you look here to the very far right, probably can't see it well, September 24th, the channel itself got 330,000 views. And pretty much all of those views came from posts that I shared about 48 hours ago. And they were all, I'll see if I can pull them up here real quick. They were all just kind of range of motion stuff. Now, none of that has anything to do with the paid ad. I did do a couple cupping. So this is 13 hours ago. This is a little cupping video. And then just hit this real quick. This is the same cupping video, but a little longer format. This is like a little 3 exercises I do with patients the first week after knee replacement. And I've said this before, you see my hand, you see the patient. This is my home exercise. So I record the instructions. I record the video clip of this is what I want you to do at home. I shoot them these videos as a text while they're in the clinic with me. And then I have a HIPAA compliant release form that they signed at the evaluation to let them know I will be using this on social media. So you can't hear the audio, but I'm telling her, this is what I want you to do. This is how many I want you to do. This is how often and whatever. I don't use any other HCP software. Real quick, this is a pre-cut Kinesio tape. I have zero clinical belief that Kinesio tape does anything clinically, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to use it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to educate the consumer about it. And these are some pre-cut strips that we got a couple affiliate sales from.
I got to jump in here on that, Tony. I don't know if
Okay.
it's placebo. I don't know if it's placebo, but I've had tape put on me. I've done tape to myself, and it felt better. Ankle,
Sure.
knee, shoulder, different areas.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's proprioception. I don't know if it's placebo. There was still some type of an effect. I've had patients. I remember when my first job, it didn't even make sense to me because it seemed like a medial ligament, like a MCL or a medial meniscus, like knee discomfort that a patient had like 5 out of 10 pain. That was elicited on a squat. And then I did some manual therapy and then had him squat again. And it was like no change at all. And then I was like, all right, well, like, at the evaluation, let's do some treatment. All right, that manual therapy did not work. I threw some kinesio tape on there, like almost above, like mimicking like the MCL, but longer. And then I had him reproduce the squats, and it was like from 5 out of 10, it went to like, I don't know, 2 or 3 out of 10 or something. So some amount of improvement. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's exactly.
But you don't believe it. I don't know.
Well, no, that's exactly what I say. I'm like, look, there's no clinical data to support anything clinical that can't be that shows actual change. But there's no harm. There's no negative side effects. It's not a medicated tape in any way. So the idea is I can take a chance for very little money, put this on you, and you might feel better. Virtually no risk of feeling worse, possible chance of feeling better. But I can't claim that it's doing all of these clinical things to your body. No, it's just a piece of tape. When I put it on, maybe it feels better, maybe it doesn't. It definitely doesn't make it feel worse. And so because I can say that and I can believe that personally, I'm also fine promoting a product like that. Because we have so many parents that come in, they're like, oh, my kid, Osgood Schlatter or patellar tendonitis or whatever. I'm like, here's some pre-cut strips. It's like $12 for a pack. I mean, it's really cheap and it's easy to use. This is how you use it. This is what you do. Give it a shot. So absolutely, I have zero resistance to doing something like that. Now, I wouldn't bill insurance for it. It's not a covered service. This is not strapping. The codes for strapping don't apply to this. Aetna has come out and said, we don't pay for it. So like, you understand the historical context around it. But putting a product like that, and I guarantee that is going to generate a couple $100s a year on Amazon transactions, just because there are people who want to know, how do I use something like this?
Right on.
All right, that's it. I wanted people to see the kind of stuff that I was sharing on Facebook. Oh, this is kind of a cool one too. Let me just pull this one back up. Al Roker had a knee replacement years ago, and one of the things that I always talk about, like this is a screenshot of the video. His leg is not straight, but I guarantee they were like, in surgery we had full extension. So I wrote a post explaining, look, this is an example. That leg is not straight. Now, I did say, I don't know if this was before the surgery or after the surgery, before the recovery. But I said, if your surgeon is willing, ask your surgeon to snap a picture of you in the actual OR so that you can see, like, what does my flexion look like when I'm unconscious and you just finished the surgery? So that I believe that provides a powerful mental image. Even if you get out of surgery and the day later you can't get past 80, you have visual proof. Oh, okay, I was at 130. I was at 0. You can see it, because so much of what we're dealing with is the psychology and the fear and the anxiety and all of these other things. I think there's probably benefit to that.
Right on. And I did recently listen to your video about the time window of regaining range of motion after knee replacement, and it just made me think of it because of what we're talking about. But yeah, right on.
Makes no sense. I will ask you, peer to peer, and anybody who's here, if you guys have opinions, so people will always tell me you only have a 8-week window to get your knee range of motion back. I'm like, okay, let's break this down from a tissue perspective. You're not growing scar tissue in 24 hours. You're laying down fibers, but it's not like restrictive scar tissue adhesions and all that stuff. 24 hours, 48 hours, I would go as far as, 7 to 10 days. You're probably not really going to lay down restrictive scar tissue based on what we understand from tissue healing. And then if we go past that and we say, okay, fear, anxiety, pain, all of these things are going to limit the patient's willingness to mobilize the knee. But even if we go to 6 months, 12 months, we get to the point where we're past the acute healing, we're past everything. At that point, to say that you can never stretch the tissue again, the joint capsule, the connective tissue, forget the muscles. The muscles, in my opinion, have nothing to do with a restricted knee. Whether it's legit scar tissue or just joint capsule or whatever, if you couldn't stretch it, yoga would never work. Like all of these other, and I did this, I looked at the research on contractures, individuals in wheelchairs, individuals after casting, like they had legitimate connective tissue restrictions that they were able to stretch over time. Low intensity, long duration stretching will improve the length and the extensibility of that tissue. So I'm like, why are we telling patients if you don't get it in the first week, you're never going to get it? It doesn't make sense to me.
I agree. Maybe historically, maybe there's some thought that that helps scare patients so that they come to all their visits and before they burn up all their visits. So I don't know. It's maybe there's some business component there,
Yeah.
or maybe the preconceived notion was you get the majority of your gains within the first 8 to 15 weeks or whatever. So let's get after it. Let's be consistent. Let's get you in the clinic 2-3 times a week. Let's have you do your home exercise program every single day. The practice also wants to improve range of motion as much as possible so that then when the patient goes back to the surgeon is happy, and then the surgeon continues to send new patients back to that physical therapy office. So there's many considerations here. I
agree. And I can make the case to say, look, the first 6 weeks, we don't want you to lay down a bunch of, thick, dense contractile or non-contractile tissue. So let's try. But I mean, I see patients on social media crying and bawling and screaming and, because the therapist says we have to do it now or we're never going to get it done. Like there is so much of that. It just breaks my heart to see it. So what was the other photo you shared?
Do you have that handy?
Let me switch over to it while we're talking. And then just to wrap up the last segment, before you got on, I was saying, if we're going to look at memberships, then I think a big part of it needs to be something that people want to come in quarterly or monthly or whatever. And range of motion measurements or girth measurements for like a lymphedema specialist. I think these are some great objective. I think Scott mentioned grip strength which was a good one. All right.
Grip strength, that's a good one. But I don't know. People don't care about grip strength as much as the knee range of motion after a knee replacement, but I like it.
Yeah, they don't necessarily see the connection. Is it this one where it's like a happy birthday? We have a margarita for you.
Yeah.
All right. Let me pull it up and I'll share it on the screen.
So I came across, I look at, different physical therapy practices, their Instagram. I'm just always looking around as you are, kind of poking around. And I came across this, I never met this practice owner, but his name is Sam. And one of their social media posts was, it looks like he's getting like a present or something, a gift from his team members inside of his physical therapy office. And, he's smiling. It's a good pic. And one of the public comments on Instagram on this post is from Bistro Casa Azul. I looked, and that place, restaurant, bar restaurant, is, in the area of this physical therapy office. They probably know each other already, but maybe they don't. Probably the business, looks like most likely the business owner or the GM or whoever commented, "Happy birthday. We have a margarita for you. Stop into Bistro Casa Azul anytime this week." And I sent this to you guys because I was like, you could hire a virtual assistant. I've even considered this because there's some Alex Hormozy stuff that we could maybe talk about and make the parallel. That one way for lead generation is to have someone on your team or a virtual assistant send DMs or even make comments like this. And this one is great because, I mean, it's such a nice comment that it seems like they might have already met before. They might have already met in the past. But why don't physical therapy offices do more of this? Why don't physical therapy practices do more of this? You could just go into Instagram, yourself, your team, your front desk person, all very, in between. If you have a tech, if you have a marketing intern, whatever you want to call it, if you have someone that could, do some of this stuff, you give them a little bit of guidelines. You give them a document or two of like what to say, what to copy and paste, and you could go, like for us, we could go into Instagram. And you could go, okay, so for anyone that comments on, at New Yorker, or anyone that comments or, post things like hashtag NYC or hashtag Manhattan or, whatever, like those common posts. And then you look at their profile. And if their profile says that they live in the New York City area, then DM them this, DM them like the thing I did before, like the free golden ticket offer, or DM them a question. You could go soft. You could go very soft. This type of thing that we shared on the screen, though, it's just great for goodwill. The nearby bar restaurant is offering this practice owner a free margarita. Stop in any time. And this Instagram account, let's say they got not a huge following. The physical therapy practice has 594 followers, but the bar restaurant that posted this has like 1,200 followers. And so there's going to be some followers from either account or other accounts nearby or other users nearby in the New York City area that see that and they're like, oh, that's nice. Like maybe they'll go to Bistro Casa Azul for their next lunch or, drink or meetup or whatever, because they were putting this out there publicly. And there's pros and cons of all this in terms of like a public comment versus a private DM. But I wanted to pitch it to you guys. I know Jimmy is, on the road right now, but I wanted to pitch it to you in terms of like, is this something that you would ever do, Tony? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Does it make sense? Like for lead generation, do you think it could be effective in the Ohio area or not?
Yeah, I think something like this. I'm sorry, I screwed up the formatting and I can't figure out how to fix it. I don't know
about it.
Yeah, something like this is awesome. It's always going to be awesome. Any kind of outreach, anything you can do to build these relationships and rapport and make connections. And again, it goes back to we probably already spend more time on social media than we should. Let's make that productive time. Let's make that time that Like Gary Vee always talks about, he'll message people and they can't believe that he's messaging them. If you have a small audience and the other person has a big audience, understand that you might not get the response you want. But now that I've got a bigger audience, I'm not going to say big, I'm going to say bigger. I've got a little bit of influence and a little bit of impact. So now I can reach out to other smaller local businesses and be like, hey, congratulations, I just saw this, or I heard that, or whatever. And we shared this idea before. If you have patients already, you've got access to people that have connections. So whether they're a small business owner or their family member or their spouse or whatever, like leverage that on social media, tag each other, share posts about each other. It has virtually no downside and only potential upside.
Yeah, I've been seriously considering, because I want to maybe hire someone to do this type of stuff, and they could just with like a virtual assistant, and with me using like a password manager. So then someone that is a virtual assistant gets some scripts and guidelines of like what to do from us. They could go into our account through the password manager on their machine, on their laptop or their computer, and then send out like those golden ticket offers at a rate of like, I think Alex Hormozy says, like, if you don't have money, like you should do 100 reach outs a day, or at least 50. And it's like, man, I've done a little bit of it, and it's like after 5 or 10, and like I'm trying to like track it, because then like you have to have like a spreadsheet of like who you hit up or not, and that's challenging. I'm sending out thank you letters to physicians. I'm sending out welcome notes to new patients and clients. I track all that in a spreadsheet. Yes, it takes longer. But it's like, then I remember, oh, I did send them this on this day or whatever. So those are the types of things I'm thinking about in terms of other lead generation. And then if they see those comments, if they look at, if we DM them or if we do the comments, then they go over to our profile, and then they start to see the other videos and the things that you've kind of helped with in terms of giving some guidance and suggestions and all that, like the videos that we have coming out around like who our patients are and our experience and our feel and all that. So yeah, those are just some of the things I'm thinking about. And I'm so glad to hear that you said that there's basically no downside of it. I thought you would actually dislike it more than you did. So I'm pumped to hear that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So on the way in this morning, I was thinking about this, and I think we might have talked about this in the past, but I was thinking about it again. So I was listening to a interview about Airbnb and about all the like new restrictions that are coming out and neighborhoods that are outlawing Airbnb, and they don't want, parties, and they don't want travelers and all this kind of stuff coming into the neighborhoods. But it also got me thinking, and Jimmy has kind of publicly shared some of these stories. I think we're all going to have some of these stories. I had him. My mom, she's passed away, but when she was still living, needed pretty much 24-hour care. And so I'm like, there's got to be an opportunity there where somebody, a therapist is what I'm thinking, PTOT, even an SLP, if there's extra space in the house and you want to experiment with this on a limited basis, there are families everywhere all the time who want to go on vacation, don't know what to do with mom or dad. Mom or dad aren't in a skilled nursing. They might not even be in an assisted living, but they're not safe enough for the adult children to go away for a week or two. And so it's like, is there an opportunity for somebody to say, hey, my kids are gone. I've got extra room in the house. I've been a therapist for 20 years. What if I did a very limited 1-week stay, Airbnb style, for a specific population of aging adult who is generally independent, but not totally independent? We cover meals. We cover a little bit of activity scheduling. They obviously have a safe place to stay. They have some general supervision. It is not therapy. You're not functioning as a therapist. You're just leaning on your knowledge and healthcare background. And then I was looking at, okay, so an actual skilled nursing going to be about I remember. I want to say it was like 9,000 a month on average. So it's like, what would you even charge for a week? And I think it could be, a $3,000 or $4,000 week for somebody who just was looking for a little side income. And so even if you did it 2 or 3 times a year, it might be something appealing. Have you ever considered that or thought about that? I mean, you guys are in New York. I don't know that you would ever have the space, but I could see somebody like me. My kids are still in the house, but they're going to be in college soon. So I go from a house of 6 to a house of 2, still got 4 bedrooms, still got a finished basement, still have all of this extra space. Why wouldn't I want to monetize that?
I mean, I'm not interested at all, but I could see how someone who used to have a busy house and then the kids leave the nest and all that. I could see why other people host Airbnb and things like that around, not just in the US, but around the world.
Yeah.
So that certainly makes sense. Also, it helps, especially if someone's like older and even more isolated, it can help with like socialization because you meet different people and they have different stories and backgrounds and all that. So it makes sense. We're not, even remotely interested in that. I mean, my son, he had me up today since 4:30 a.m. He's up talking out loud, saying that his sleep is done, that it's over, all done. And so, yeah, but it makes sense to monetize it if you have the space and a room, and why not?
Yeah, I'm thinking of all the, I should put that in the alternative careers group, but all the PTs and OTs that are pretty much out of day-to-day clinical care and their kids are adults now, they're out of the house and they're just like, man, I'm kind of bored. I'm looking for something, I think they would enjoy something like that. I see the joy on my wife's face when my wife came back into the clinic after 16, 17 years of being out of the clinic, out of patient care. Like, she has the genuine joy of talking to the geriatric patients that she probably had when she was a student, that I think, someone like me who's in the mix every single day, I don't get the same joy that I used to, So you take a 20-year hiatus from patient care and then you're like, oh, yeah, I could do that. That'd be reasonable.
Let me just jump back to earlier in the conversation because you were mentioning the knee range of motion offer.
Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat because I thought then you were also going to say a bundle because you mentioned like a do-it-yourself video training or whatever, and so then I let it slip by and then we kept talking and we didn't discuss it. So in the remaining few minutes that we have before we do parting shots, you were thinking like a 5 minute, like a 3 to 5 minute patient comes in and out, they get their knee range of motion checked if they have a stiff knee from an old knee replacement or recent or whatever, and you're saying maybe $29 in that range. That would be the option one. But then option two, if you were to bundle it, it could be what else? It could be the do-it-yourself knee range of motion measurement, and buy a goniometer from you or Amazon. Or buy the TENS unit or, the one on Amazon or, for you to have an affiliate link or whatever. I can't believe I let that slip, but that's my bad. So bundle real quick, few minutes. What else would you add to that as option like 2 or 3 to make, the $29 is the lowest. And then the other options you can add to it to make the option number 2 and 3, or just option 2, a little more valuable, but a little more expensive.
I think the upsell would be a 15-minute manual treatment where you just do some soft tissue work and loosen everything up and mobilize the knee manually. I think you could do a self-pay manual treatment layered on top of a Medicare covered or insurance covered treatment plan if they wanted to do that. I would not do manual therapy under the insurance covered service because here in Ohio, manual therapy, Medicare reimbursements, like I want to say $20 a unit, and it's just not worth it. There's plenty of clinical evidence to support other interventions that are as effective, if not more effective, than manual therapy. Manual therapy should be self-pay only, and it can be done compliantly. So the upsell is you get into a manual plan with some covered services. The downsell is, yeah, I would package either like some sort of compression device. I think compression works really well, trying to gain range of motion after 6 to 12 months. It could be one of the pneumatic compression devices or some wraps. Some sort of home equipment that I have vetted, I use here in the clinic, and we just have it ready to go. So here's your home equipment. And that's it. And then, this is where you remember this, I'm sure. There's plenty of other massage therapists locally. So like if I get one of them to let me sell their services, even better. If I can put a $20, $30 margin on top of a 6-visit package with an LMT down the road, I get $160 or something for selling their 6-visit package. Heck yeah, I'm going to do that all day. Especially if I know that they're going to do a good job with this client, then that's going to be a client for them into the future. They love it. I love it. It's a win-win all around.
I love it.
All right, let's do parting shots. Right now, for me, Facebook business page by far is my best outlet. I still do TikTok. I still do Instagram. I still do YouTube, a little bit of Pinterest, but head and shoulders above everything. Facebook is giving me the greatest reach, the best income, and it's generally all organic except for what I just started doing yesterday.
This is Facebook pays you for the ads that are on.
Just like YouTube, Facebook has a monetization program. When somebody goes to my video on Facebook, there's an ad there. I get paid for Facebook showing that ad.
I don't even think I knew that. I obviously have known that, Google and YouTube have done it forever.
This month, the last 28 days, it's been $500.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long has that program been around? How long have you been getting paid through Facebook?
A long time. I just got monetized in February of this year, 2025.
Okay. It's still recent, like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I am not monetized on Instagram, but I've had other therapists tell me they're monetized on Instagram, not on Facebook, and they're doing great on Instagram. But for me right now, Facebook is doing best.
Gotcha. Interesting. All right. For me, parting shots, I like the knee check. I like the knee range of motion check. If you're watching this, you're listening to this, if you go and do it, test it out. We'll probably have Jeremy Sutton come back and test it out and say that it went well or, challenging or whatever, or what type of dollar amount that he's pitching or how many minutes. I want Tony to come back in the coming days or weeks to fill us in on if you do roll out a paid ad for this.
Yeah.
If you're cool with it, I would love to show the audience like images of like what your ads look like and the copy and the words. And also like if you get a cold lead, a new patient that never came to your practice ever before, but came through that, I would love to hear what they tell you about the offer, why it caught their attention, why it caught their eye, why they took you up on it, why that's important to them and all that. And then do they continue on their own? Do you upsell them with something? Do they start a plan of care with you? All that type of stuff I would love to get into if you get to that point.
Absolutely. I'll bring it. All right, guys, go check out the Dave Kittle Show on YouTube, learn Medicare billing on YouTube, the PT Pinecast everywhere else. We'll see you guys Tuesday morning and Thursday morning at 8:30 Eastern. All right. See you, Dave. Have a great weekend.
You too, Tony. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE at CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.